Good morning and welcome to the 2021 Orange County Taxpayers Association annual meeting. My name is Kristen Kamulia, and it has been my pleasure to have served as chairwoman of the OC Tax Board of Directors for the past 2 years. 2020 was a busy and successful year for OC Tax. Our victory in helping to defeat Proposition 15 last year will save California taxpayers from an over $10 billion a year tax increase. Thank you for your support of the Orange County Taxpayers Association. It helps us to defend and protect the taxpayers of Orange County and California. I would also like to add my personal thanks to the entire OC Tax Board of Directors. I am so grateful to be able to work alongside such a tremendous group of taxpayer and business advocates. Thank you for all of your support over the past 2 years. And now it is my privilege to call the 2021 OC Tax Annual Meeting to order.
I would like to thank our outgoing OC Tax Board of Directors Chairwoman, Kristen Kamulia, for her dedication, steady hand, and hard work over the past 2 years. And welcome the Honorable Trevor O'Neill as our incoming Chairman of the Board for 2021 and 2022. And we would like to thank all of you for joining us today. Your support of OC Tax allows us to continue to protect and defend the taxpayers of Orange County. If you're interested in becoming a member or joining us for our future programs, please go to octax.org and sign up. We are hoping to see you all in person very soon. This morning, the Assemblywoman from California District 74, Assemblywoman Cotty Petrinoris. Welcome so much. I'm so thrilled to have you with us. Thank you. I'm excited to talk about some of the work you're doing in accountability and transparency. It's sort of actually what you're known for now. When you were first elected, and you were just reelected to your second term in the Assembly. You come from a finance and technology background, but you really were focusing on transparency and accountability for how the tax dollars were being spent right from the beginning. So could you tell us a little bit about that?
That's right, Carolyn. I come in the business world, and I think from day one I was really struck by and actually kind of shocked by how relatively little time it seems we spend looking back and tracking performance and tracking results. So we write a lot of laws, we hold a lot of press conferences, but in this building not enough time, in my view, is spent looking back and saying, did that program get implemented effectively? The money going where it's supposed to? And most importantly, is that money having the impact that we thought it was going to have? Because if not, we gotta start doing something else. And so I chair the Assembly's Accountability and Administrative Review Committee. And in that capacity, I've really been pushing for a data-driven approach to ensure that legislation and programs are implemented effectively, that government spending is aligned with legislative intent, and that your taxpayer dollars are being spent efficiently and effectively. And as chair, we've dug into a number of key issues and challenges plaguing the state, including Mental Health Services Act funds, the Fiscal project, the procurement of personal protective equipment, the state's vaccine rollout, and most notably throughout the COVID-19 pandemic, the failings at California's EDD, the Employment Development Department.
Yeah, I'm going to talk about EDD a little bit later with you, but because that's such a glaring example, I think, of problems that the state has. In other ways, when you first came in, again, you come from the business world and you're surprised that there's not as much accountability. What did you find? When you were looking at, was there, let's just say, I'm an Assemblywoman, I pass a bill. Did you feel that there was accountability to make sure that what was happening with that legislation was actually happening on the ground in the taxpayers? What did you find?
So I'll tell you what what I think, Carolyn, is that when California was in a period of very short term limits, so it was until 2012, assembly members, you could be elected to the assembly for a term of 6 years. And that really, I think, led to some serious challenges in terms of accountability. Folks would come in for 2 years, be getting their feet under them, spend 2 years doing policy and work, and frankly, spend the next 2 years kind of looking for their next thing.
Mm-hmm.
And that really did lead, I think, to a lack of accountability and a lack of focus on accountability from members. I think the good news is that while we do have term limits, and I think those are important, the term limits now are 12 years, and you can serve that either in the assembly or in the state senate. And so what I am seeing in many of my colleagues is a similar desire to ensure that the good ideas that they have don't just get written down in California code, but actually get implemented by agencies. And I think that there is a broader commitment across the body now to focus more on results, and I'm hopeful that that trend continues.
That's good. Well, it's good to hear that your colleagues in both houses are following that. I mean, transparency is huge at OC Tax, and we're going to start to follow some of the money that's coming in with the American CARES Act and what the counties are doing with it, what the cities are doing with it, what's happening at the state level. So it's nice that we have a champion, and I know I really admired that about one of the things I admire about you, but that was one of the first things I heard when I met you for the very first time, when you first gotten elected, how shocked you were at that. And you just kind of dove right in and said, this is something we're going to be doing. And if I remember, is there like a committee now that's looking at that up there? Or is there something in place in the legislature that's actually kind of following up with that?
Yes. So I chair the Assembly Committee on Accountability and Administrative Review. And there are a number of proposals that my colleagues and I are working on to better track government spending in homelessness, in affordable housing,
wow.
And in a number of other areas.
Okay.
So there were a couple of accountability bills that were vetoed last year.
Wow.
Which was a bit weird. So we're bringing some of those back.
Good.
And pushing to get some of that done, because the reality is when we have these intractable, really, really hard problems for the state, the solution isn't, hey, let's just pour more money into programs that aren't working. I
Right.
think the reality is we don't have a revenue problem. We've got a performance problem, and we've got to be honest about that. We've got to resolve those issues and frankly, just do a better job as stewards of your tax dollars.
That's great. Good for you. Well, and you're also reaching across the aisle. My understanding is there's a new caucus in town, the California Problem Solvers Caucus. And you are a member alongside other state assembly and senators. So it's both houses, right? From both sides of the aisle. So tell us about this new group.
Yes. So it is, as you said, it's bipartisan and it is bicameral. And I'd say we are a very different group of legislators. We represent districts that are rural, that are urban, that are northern, that are southern. Some of us are more progressive, some of us are more conservative. But I think that what we do share are similar concerns about some of the, I think, profound issues facing both our country and our state right now. And I think we've gotten to a point where just kind of the deepness of the partisan divide, the bitterness of it is resulting in a lot of kind of partisan bickering and a lot of, I think, acrimony at the expense of actually getting stuff done. And the reality in my mind is that the loudest voices that we hear on Twitter, I think on both sides of the aisle, you know, that there's 5% on either side, that really, those are the extremes of both of our parties. And I believe that the vast majority of Americans, and certainly the vast majority of Californians, are in the middle. And they actually do not want us spending our time and our energy having Twitter fights with the opposing side. They want us to solve the problems that are confronting us right now. And God knows they are enormous. And so, our goal really is to push for practical solutions, to create incentives, frankly, for folks to come to the middle and to come to the table, and to kind of move beyond political agendas that seem kind of, like they're driven by a T-shirt slogan rather than
Right.
actual solutions. So some of the things that we've already talked about, some of the issues that we do want to focus on, and some of the places where we think our kind of existing constructs or our existing paradigms are fundamentally broken include housing, mental health, California's workforce needs as we transition to the economy of tomorrow, as well as another thing that we do share. I believe all of us recognize that there needs to be more focus on oversight, on accountability, on government efficiency, and on ensuring that ultimately government works for the folks that we were elected to
The
represent.
folks that are paying for it, right?
Yes, the folks that we were elected to represent, and the folks that we work for.
Right. Yeah. Education is probably another big one, not to pile issues onto your table, but that's another big one. Well, I really admire that. I think there's a reason that no party preference is becoming one of the fastest growing voter registrations. And I think it's because people are watching you all. People are watching what's happening in Washington, D.C. People are watching what's happening in Sacramento, and they're reading about it. And I can tell you, I'm weary. I'm tired. And of course, I'm in it more than an average normal resident of California. But I get so tired. I just really want to say, can't we all just kind of, come to the table and get rid of those, extreme partisan views and just do what's right for California. But I think it's going to be interesting. I think it will be interesting what happens. And I'm not going to ask you about the governor, but it's going to be interesting to see what happens over the next couple months in California. And I think there's going to be a shift completely. So thank you for representing Orange County and being at the forefront of this. You got your work cut out for you, I can tell you.
Yes, we do. But I'm excited about it. And it is a great group of folks. And I'll say it, people who are smart and passionate, and I think optimistic enough, I guess, burnt enough to want to do something different.
Yeah.
But optimistic enough to believe that we can do something different.
That's great. I know Congressman Luke Correa is in a similar group at the national level, so it's so fun to watch both of you do this. So thank you. But I do want to talk about EDD because I think you have several bills that address this issue. We're talking about, I think now $30 billion. It's like, that's a huge percentage of our budget, actually, our regular budget going out. And I think the frustration thing for me is that people, they were aware that there was a problem with technically in the agency and how they tracked this, 4 or 5 years ago, I believe. And so now we're in this. So talk to us about some bills. I'd love to hear what you're seeing on your end with EDD, if there's hope, if there's been any improvements, and are we going to get any of our money back?
So, Carolyn, you're absolutely right that this department has been failing for years. Some of the issues that we are seeing right now, and some of the incredible pain points, are frankly things that have been known for 10 years. The state auditor literally been writing just scathing audit reports about this department for a decade. So the department's been failing for years. In the midst of this pandemic, it has become an absolute crisis. And the bottom line is, as I know you know, and I'm guessing most of the folks watching also know, this department has caused heartache for millions of Californians, and also, as you said, lost billions and billions of dollars. And to me, it has been both completely heart-wrenching to receive the phone calls that we do every single day in my district office. just desperate constituents who don't know how they're going to pay their bills, how they're going to make their rent, how they're going to feed their kids. They've been met with kind of this seemingly disinterested bureaucracy who's not answering their phone calls, not responding to their emails. You said that you probably are paying more attention to what's happening in state politics than most Californians, and I would guess you are. I think most Californians don't really think very much about their state government. But you know what? In the midst of a crisis, in the midst of a pandemic, you better believe that they expect the government services that they've worked so hard to fund are there to support them. And so to me, it has been a completely unacceptable failure. And so over the course of the summer, we conducted a number of EDD oversight hearings, and a number of my colleagues and I then put together a legislative working group to try to address some of these issues. So we've introduced a package of 8 bills to stop prison fraud, to stop non-prison fraud, to improve customer service, to provide a direct deposit facility, so we obviate the need of the Bank of America as a partner, to improve language access, and really to step up oversight of the department and ensure that the reforms that we're setting in motion right now, frankly, actually do get done. And I think that what's happened over the years, and I don't think it's unique to EDD, is certainly very easy once this is out of the headlines, once it's the 5-alarm fire has subsided. It is very easy for folks to just stop paying attention and doing something else. And the truth is that fixing a bureaucracy and fixing legacy computer systems, it's not sexy, and it's not a great news headline. But that is the work of our government, in my view. And so my 100% commitment to you and to all of my constituent and to the people of California is, even when this is out of the spotlight, we are going to continue to have every 6 months our oversight hearing, so we check in on progress and ensure that we don't find ourselves in another 10 years having this same just totally outrageous conversation.
Wow. Well, thank you for your effort in this. I know it's a quagmire to try to slog through to fix it, but it's just, for me, my heart just breaks for the people who really have struggled with this over the year, and then to see the money that was just basically sent away to who knows where. I think California is going to be rebounding for this for a while. So besides EDD and accountability, you have any other priorities this year that you're looking at and you're working on?
Yes, absolutely. So our number one focus really still is COVID-19 response and recovery. This is a pivotal moment. I think today is the 1-year anniversary of California's stay-at-home order. And so, we're more than a year into this devastating pandemic. Some 56,000 Californians have lost their lives. As you know, businesses across the state have been shuttered for months. And so as we work to restore and rebuild our state's economy, we're certainly facing profound challenges. I think the really good news, and I think folks know this, is that there is a light at the end of the tunnel, and it's not that far away. And with President Biden's announcement that there would be sufficient vaccine supply for all American adults to be vaccinated by May, and that is less than 2 months away. And so like you, I'm really looking forward to being able to put this pandemic behind us and get to the work of rebuilding. So while our number one priority really is to get COVID-19 back off the shelves and into arms, since we are well on our way to doing that, and with that tailwind behind us, for me, the next priority is focusing on a roadmap to responsibly reopen California. And number one on that roadmap is school reopening. I've got two boys who are in 6th and 8th grade. Actually, today is their very first day that they set foot in a classroom for more than a year. They went back to school this morning. And, I'm getting emotional just talking about it. But the reality is that it has been hard for me as a mom, it's been hard for my kids. And I know that my kids have every resource available to them. They have a laptop. They've got their
Yeah.
Wi-Fi that always works. They've got two parents who can help them with their schoolwork and help them navigate this. And it's still been hard. And the vast majority of California kids do not have that.
Right.
And those are the kids who are falling further and further behind. And it has been incredibly, I think, disappointing to me to see a two-tiered system of education unfold across the state over the last year, and been pushing really hard to reopen our schools as soon as we saw in the fall that there was a growing body of evidence that it could be done safely. I've been pushing for that to happen, and so we've made good progress on that front in recent weeks. It's taken too long, and we've got a lot of work to do to now make up for that lost time and address just the enormous learning loss that so many of our kids will face. So that is at the top of my priority list. Another area of focus is economic recovery, particularly small businesses. So we know that the past year has been devastating for businesses large and small, but particularly for our smallest businesses. And I was really proud to be a co-author of the Keep California Working Act, which we had proposed at the end of last year. We proposed investing $2.6 billion to provide immediate relief in the form of grants to small businesses who have been impacted by the pandemic. And just 2 weeks ago, as a result of the momentum that we were able to generate behind that bill and behind that proposal, just 2 weeks ago, the legislature did pass an additional $2.1 billion in grant relief that's going out right now to small businesses. So that was a huge first step. It's a vital lifeline, but now we've got to help them fully open and rebuild. And really excited to also share, I'm chairing a select committee this year on small business and entrepreneurship, and looking forward to being able to use that platform to elevate a conversation around the issues and challenges confronting California's small businesses, many of which certainly precede the pandemic, but the pandemic has them. And then the last thing I'll touch on very briefly, that's always a priority for me in the district I represent, is environmental policy. Confronting the climate crisis, and particularly coastal protection. So we're working on a number of bills this year to protect the coast from sea level rise, and also to cut green tape and remove some of the barriers so that we can encourage more restoration work on the coast and more adaptation projects on the coast as well. So we're excited about that. So it is going to be a busy.
Yes, it sounds like a really busy year for you, hitting the ground running. Anything specific as a taxpayer organization? I know we appreciated your support in helping us defeat Prop 15 last year. But is there anything in the works that I need to be keeping my eye on particularly? Do you know of anything?
Well, yes, Carolyn, I hate to have to tell you, but there are a number of really concerning proposals that have already been surfaced by a number of colleagues to create new taxes. So, conversations about new wealth taxes, new personal income taxes, new corporate taxes. To reiterate what Governor Newsom himself has already said, these are a total non-starter, and there is not the legislative support. Proposals. But they are deeply concerning, and I think just really send a very negative message to the taxpayers and the business owners who are right now. But in better news, you can also keep your eye out for a bill that I've authored, AB 593, the Golden State Innovation Act. And this would reinstate the research and development tax credit and net operating loss deductions for California's life sciences companies.
Wow.
Really is just to incentivize investment and create good jobs and fuel economic growth in what I think is really a all-important sector for California, the life sciences industry. So we are working on that and building support we've got, I think, 30 co-authors for that
Great.
proposal. So excited to push that forward.
It's a good time in the state's history to work on that as well, to give us a boost in that area when we need it the most.
Yes, absolutely. I mean, to me, these are companies that are delivering huge impact on our economy. They are creating great, good paying jobs, and they're also developing the life-saving treatments and therapies
Yep.
that are saving COVID-19 and many other things. So to me, if that's not a triple bottom line, then I don't really know what is.
I don't know what it would be either. It is always a pleasure to talk with you. You're always a wealth of knowledge, and just love the work that you're doing in Sacramento. So thank you so much for taking time to be with us today, especially in a day your kids are heading off to school. So we appreciate it. Best to you in Sacramento as you're doing your work, and please let us know anything else that we can do to help you in your work up there. We appreciate you very much.
All right. I appreciate you, and always great to catch up with you.
Thank you. We're going to take a short break, and we'll be back with our next guest, Assemblywoman Janet Nguyen.
When you have wall-to-wall Wi-Fi throughout your whole home, you can use it everywhere. Yes, even there. Get wall-to-wall Wi-Fi with Cox Panoramic Wi-Fi.
And we are back. Please join me in welcoming Assemblywoman Janet Nguyen. Janet has a long history of public service, from the Garden Grove City Council, the Orange County Board of Supervisors, to the State Senate, and now she represents California District 72 in the State Assembly. Welcome, Janet. I got that right. It's the 72nd, right?
It is.
It is.
It is.
Good. So what is
Thank
it
you.
like? What is it like being back in Sacramento?
You know, it's exciting. I'm so glad to be back and extremely honored to be able to. One thing, though, it is very different than what it was in the past. We are living under the COVID pandemic. And so Sacramento is not what it used to be, where a year ago, you can walk into the Capitol, visit the museum, lots of action, lots of movements, lots of people. Today, there's no one in the building but us. And even with that, we're discouraged to be in the building if we don't have committee hearings or any other business. We're asked to go back to where we stay at, whether it's a hotel or our own apartment, our house, whatever it is to Zoom from there instead. So it's extremely different, which makes me very sad, because I love to interact with people. I love to interact with my resident who comes to Sacramento, and now we can't. I can't get folks to go up to Sacramento or encourage them to come and testify in these committees anymore, because again, the Capitol is shut down for the public, and also in my own district, my district office is also shut down to the public. Only my staff are allowed to be there, and only that, it's very limited number of staffs allowed to be in my office as well. So all of our interaction now has been via Zoom, via phone, via text messages, and via email. So we don't get that one-on-one personal interaction with our residents, my constituents.
Yeah, so that must be hard, because I'm thinking about that. If you're not getting that interaction, it must be completely different in how you're working up there. But so the public really isn't in the building. Then how are you getting input then? How do you feel the process is working then? If you're not getting a lot of that public input, then it's just kind of in a silo making decisions then.
You're right. It is. I mean, most of our information we're getting is through social media.
Well, that's accurate all the time, right?
Through social media, through emails. But you're right. We don't get the interaction like we used to, where when I'm in my district at a grand opening, I get to hear from Miss Jane Doe saying, hey, Janet or Assemblywoman, this is how I really feel about this bill. And those are the people that I want to hear from, because they're not the one who necessarily will be emailing me or calling me. These are people who live what policies we are implementing and pass it on. And I want to hear from them. And it is, you're right, we don't get that kind of input like we used to.
Yeah. Yeah. So a difference then, are you seeing the difference between the Senate and the Assembly side yet then, or is it pretty much just the same since you really are not getting a lot of input from people?
You know, both chambers are very different.
Yeah.
The culture of the Assembly versus the Senate is different. The demeanor is different. The process on a lot of things are very different as well.
Yeah.
You would think, some of these things we could work together and implement in the same system. Like, just for example, our payroll. It's not the same. Senate has their own payroll system. We have our own. So some of these, I think we could probably work on in hand in hand to make it easier and better, but we don't.
Yeah.
But yeah, there is a lot of differences between the two houses, attitude and process.
Yeah.
For-
Yeah.
But and then there's good. I like maybe something on the Senate side, and then I like something else on the Assembly side better. So you have to ask me that question the day of, and I'll tell you how I feel.
Yeah, it'll be different. So let's talk about COVID, because you got elected in the middle of this. And so talk about your opinion on coming in and seeing how the state's responding. You have a lot of experience at the county with the response. How do you think California as a whole has responded to this crisis?
I think we have failed. I think the governor has failed. I think the legislature have failed last year. I believe we can do better. Believe that we can move faster. I also believe that in terms of getting vaccination to the arms of individuals, we have failed, not only at the state level, but also at the county level as well.
Yeah.
We keep on putting layers and layers into the process. And as you know, my constituent, they just want to get an appointment, get the vaccine, and move on.
Right.
So that we can hopefully start reopening and living more of a normal life, back to pre-COVID. But the problem you have is the state has its process, the county has their process, and it's just one after another. And even with the county side, from our position, from where we are as legislator, we get the constituent calling us saying, I can't get onto the county's website. And then they're blaming the state. So the county says it's a state fault. And then the state say it's the county.
Right.
So everybody's doing this.
Yeah.
But who do they call? They call the legislators. The constituent call us, because
Yeah.
most people don't know the Orange County Board of Supervisors even exists. And most people don't think that they would even be able to reach the governor's office. So we get the blame for the problem, but yet the two agencies, the governor and the county, need to figure it out and work with us as members of the legislative body to implement these programs. And so that's where, everybody knows how much the County of Orange has failed in terms of their Athena problem or app. How could you, from a county where you have a large body of Latino Spanish speaker and a large body of Vietnamese Americans, but yet it took them a month and a half and extra money to say, oh, duh, we need a website or an app in those languages.
Yeah.
These are something that should have been thought of prior to, and they had months to prepare for this. We knew that the vaccine is potentially coming out early this year.
Oh, yeah, almost a year, everybody knew that.
Yes, and yet we weren't planning anything. We weren't having that discussion, or if there were any planning, nobody knew about it.
Yeah.
Like the public, we get to see what happens at the county when we read it in the newspaper or in the media.
Mm-hmm. It's interesting. One of the problems I think that people at the county didn't realize, and I'll use my mom as an example. My mom's obviously over 65. I'm pretty close to 65, but she doesn't have an email. So a lot of seniors don't have emails, but you had to have an email address to be able to register on the Athena website. So I went ahead and used my email address and got her, but now I'm not allowed to use my email address. So because it's already been used for my mom. So if you think about, you had two seniors, a husband and a wife, they would have had to have had two email addresses. So, and a lot of seniors don't. So it's little things I think like that maybe people didn't completely think through. And I understand, they need to be able to communicate with you some way, and email's the easiest way, but it was fascinating. So I'm going to have to use one of my weird little, or come up with another email to use to register if I'm going to register through the county. But that's been difficult for a lot of seniors. They don't have internet access, or they don't have emails. They can't register.
Yeah, and the other part is that the county should realize and knew ahead of time that the capacity is going to exceed.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
Is that they started promoting the app, and of course it crashed.
Yeah.
I mean, we knew that was going to happen. You have 3.2 million residents in Orange County.
Yeah.
If you want 3.2 million people to register, and this is something that has been on the minds of Orange County residents and Californians nationally.
We were waiting for it.
Year. We've been waiting for this moment. It's like getting that lottery ticket, right?
Yeah.
You've been sitting in line. We've been waiting for that moment. You didn't think that we were going to all sign up or try to.
Yeah.
And so it then ended up becoming where people who had access to email, people who had fast internet, and people who aren't working, who are able to go on during odd hours.
Yeah.
While the rest of us who are essential workers, right, can't get on, can't go at any given time. The county tells them to show up.
Yeah, that is true.
So it became where it is very burdensome to a lot of individuals. And the idea that the county needs to promote the vaccine and to spend money on a PR firm is quite interesting, because the demand far exceed the capacity.
Right.
So it a lot of things that they've done. As a former county supervisor, I would have paused and thought it through, and had a more open discussion to the public so that they knew the process, instead of, here's an Athena, get on it. And we're like, oh, we didn't know there was going to be an app.
Yeah.
And so I think those are kind of things that makes it very frustrating for individuals like myself, who's been a former county supervisor, who knows that these things could have been avoided.
Yeah. We've been frustrated at OC Tax with the lack of transparency with the dollars being spent. And the county has turned around now, and of course, and they are finally publishing the contract. So I appreciate that. The one good thing I will say about the county, the company that they contracted to do the testing, actually we were able to get, when we needed to, my husband and I were exposed, we got into the testing site right away. We drove through, it was done very, very well. We got our response back, within 48 hours. So that one did work. How do you think then, besides the rollout for the vaccine, let's just talk about how business has been affected in your district and things like that. The goalposts over this last year kept getting moved and moved and moved. Every time we figured out we're blue or purple or orange or red, then all of a sudden the system came a little different. How do you think it's affected the economy in your district, or in California? How is the business community going to rebound from this?
It's estimated 30 to 40% of small businesses will permanently close in the state at the end of this year.
Yeah.
It is really unfortunate that the governor, you're right, it's not just that he's moving the goalposts every time, it's that it's a different standard. He has a new goal for us, right? Mm-hmm. It's either the color system, the regional system, the number system.
Yeah.
And every time we reach that, it's almost like running a marathon, and you're right there in that finish line. It's right in front of you, and they move it and they go, oh, now you have to do another 10 laps.
Wow.
Huh?
Yeah.
Oh, wait, no.
Good analogy.
Now you're not only running, you're now going to be swimming across the ocean.
Mm-hmm.
Because, but I'm not in my swimming suit. It doesn't matter. That's the rule now. That's what I've decided. And that's what the governor has done, that has made it where Californians have distrust the process. and distrust that there is actual science and data that they are actually looking at. That's where we don't want to get to, and we have gone to that point, and that's where the businesses have been devastated.
Yeah.
Businesses across the state, across my district, especially small business owner, nonprofit, are barely surviving.
Yeah.
Schools are still closed.
Yeah, you've got school age kids.
I do. I've got an 8-year-old and a 10-year-old, and I have personally witnessed as a mom their social, mental, physical, and academic failure in this last round.
Yeah.
It has hurt them so much, and you can see that devastation in them that it tears me apart as a mom. And so, I remember when we were talking, I was on a Zoom and I was driving my kids to the daycare, and my boys were in the car, and they heard about the discussion the discussion on Zoom was, we are going to open or not open. And there were members of the legislature on that call. When I got out of the car, my 10-year-old turned to me, was that about school reopening? And I said, yeah. He goes, are we going to reopen? And I said, we're working on it, honey. He goes, Mommy, we really need to get back to school.
Yeah.
Can you please make sure we get back and open up our schools? That breaks my heart as a mom.
Mm-hmm.
And, we have failed them academically.
Yeah.
Forget about the socializing, which they need for their future. The mental stage. I mean, forget about all that. Academically, we have failed these children. They've lost 1 full year. And if we continue in this process, they're going to lose another year. And so, I'm glad that we're moving forward, but we could have opened a year ago.
Yeah.
Science and data a year ago have said that school could be safely reopened.
Wow. So how do you think this is going to affect the recall of the governor? There's a recall effort going on right now. Any opinions on that? I'm hearing they've got the signatures.
Yeah, the rumor around the Capitol is, we're hearing that the signatures, they have enough signature that's verified. I'm not sure if it's officially verified by the Register of Voters or Secretary of State, but the rumor is that there's enough signature verified. There will be a recall, and if there is a recall, it most likely will be in September.
Yeah.
If you listen to the governor's State of the State address, it was very much his campaign speech heading into going against the recall.
Yeah.
Because I'm sorry, I do respect, to the governor, but I don't see the glory that he's talking about in California.
Yeah.
Schools are still closed. Businesses are still closed. Vaccines are not getting in the arms fast enough. They're still sitting either in the county or the state. They're not getting where they need to. So I'm not sure in the economy, EDD has continued to be a failure to the state, and getting money to individual who truly needs the money is not getting there. And yet we've lost billions of dollars in fraud. We're giving money to prisoners who are in jail for unemployment, but yet Californians, mom and dad who's worked so hard in their life and now have been sitting there needing help, are not getting the relief that they need. And so I'm not sure where the governor thinks that, his State of the State address is as glorious as he's talked about. It must be another place. That's not where I'm living right now, and especially not in my district.
Yeah. Well, I want to talk about EDD because now you've hit a hot spot for me, because this just ticks me off more than anything. As you were saying, as the pandemic was, ramping up, everybody kind of knew this was going to be a problem. As it started to go more, we knew. So the last number I heard was an estimated $31 billion. So that's like over 10% of the state's budget has been sent out to people who shouldn't have gotten the money. We've lost, 10% at a time where we can't do it. I gotta tell you, I don't understand this. I don't understand why the state wasn't more prepared for this. How are you guys gonna make up this money loss?
Well, it's even worse than that, Carolyn, is that we knew back in 2016 when there was an audit that EDD has a problem with checking their claimant, okay, with the submission of people who apply. We knew since 2016 there were areas that they were recommending EDD to put in place to make sure that in the future we weed out those problems, or at least minimize those problems.
Yeah.
2016, the pandemic happened in 2020.
Yeah.
We did nothing. We did absolutely nothing for 4 years. And then we find out in 2021 through another audit that there was an audit in 2016 that talked about it. So,
wow.
We have to hold them accountable. There are definitely a lot of legislation being drafted and authored right now that's going through the legislative body. An example of AB 8, where one area where people are upset with is that right now, if you had unemployment, your only choice is you get a direct deposit from Bank of America, even though you don't bank with Bank of America.
Right.
If you want to transfer your money out, you have to wait and transfer in certain increments. You can't transfer all, only a certain amount you can transfer out into another account. Well, why is that? Technology is very simple for us these days. Shouldn't it be?
Yeah.
And so AB 8 will make sure that people get to choose how they want and where they want the deposit to be, and whether it be a prepaid credit card or not, a debit card or not. And so that is like the simplest things that we can do to make it easier. Other ones is, here's a no-brainer, I believe, is EDD needs to be required to respond to anyone who submits an application within 30 days. 30 days, that's all we're asking for.
Yeah.
That's not a lot. Quite frankly, in my opinion, they should hear back from us sooner, within days.
Yeah.
But we're giving them 30 days to respond to these people. And why is that important? Because within that 30 days, if there's missing paperwork or documentation, the claimant can respond and get the information in immediately, versus waiting 90 days or more and waiting and then finding out, oh, we didn't verify your address. Right. Oh, that was it? I waited for 3 months, right? So AB 24 will require EDD to make sure that they respond within 30 days.
Yeah. Yeah. The other thing, that's interesting with EDD is, I know, talking to people, a lot of times the appeal processes has to be snail mailed into a PO box in Sacramento. And I remember thinking to myself, I can only imagine how many pieces of mail were stacked up in a PO box in Sacramento. A lot of things were probably lost, and then these people are waiting, and it's really tough. Well, let's go to maybe some more positive news. What are you working on this year? Up until any specific interests that you have going forward?
My main focus this year is my commitment is COVID recovery. Yeah. So whether that is reopening our schools safely full time, or reopening businesses full time and allowing full capacity into businesses, and not just 25% or 50%. We want to reopen. We want to get people back to work. We want children back in school. But we want to also make sure that it's safe as well. So my main focus are those areas. In addition, though, we also want to make sure that we help businesses as they move forward, and allowing them to get the necessary resources they need, or the school resources it needs to open up safely for children, teachers, and administrators and staff, or businesses for themselves, for their customers and their employees as well. So some of the bills that we've been working on that I'm proud to be author and co-author or joint author of as well. One is what we call the Keep Californians Working Act, which would allocate $2.6 billion in grants for small businesses that's affected by COVID-19. Money in addition to everything else that they've received already or have qualified for. So this is nothing that preempts you if you already receive a PPP or, other grants in other, from the county, the state, or from the city as well. The next one we have also been working on is AB 1181, which is to waive business licenses fees for restaurants affected by COVID-19. Having grown up in a a family-owned restaurant business, having our own restaurants, in the past as well. I'm very familiar what they're going through and know it. For any restaurants that's affected with COVID in 2020, 2021, the bill would require cities and counties to waive their license fee. If they already paid for it, is to refund them.
Yeah, that's great.
It's not a lot, but it starts adding up because a restaurant is a penny business, and every penny counts. And so we need to help these restaurants and these small businesses that are mainly in my district or mom and pop's restaurant.
Yeah, good for you.
In addition, we've been negotiating, working on AB 80, which is to allow businesses to deduct up to $150,000 of expenses that were paid for given PPP loans, which is the Paycheck Protection Program, and also the Economic Injury Disaster Loan as well. So we want them to be able to deduct that up to $150,000. But we are in negotiation with the governor and the administration to hoping to move the needle up a little higher than 150,000. And so the bill hasn't gone forward yet. It is going to go into Revenue and Taxation Committee, which I am the vice chair of. So that's our negotiation going through. One of the things we've all heard about in the last year is AB 5. AB 5 actually has come into a head-on collision during this pandemic. It made it worse, and it made us realize that actually independent contractor would have benefited more and helped more during this pandemic because they work at home, right? They're independent. And with AB 5 and all the, some folks got exemption, some didn't get exemption. We can try to figure out why, but instead of trying to figure out why, let's move forward. Let's look at and seriously look at AB 5 because, quite frankly, AB 5, who it hurts the most are the minority and the woman-owned independent contractors. And so we need to look at AB 5 and who has been exempt, who hasn't been exempt, and why not. And let's see how we can work to get these people back where they were prior to AB 5, and also to help them, it gives them a boost because of also this pandemic as well. So those are kind of the things that we've been working on that I'm hopeful that this legislative body would look at and consider, because we need to recover from this. And we can only recover if we work together in unity and not Democrat versus Republicans or the governor versus the legislator. It's all of us together because Californians deserve that from us. This pandemic has hit everybody. It didn't hit just Republicans. It didn't hit just Democrats. It didn't hit just, Sacramento or San Diego. It hit everybody.
I'm so glad you're back in Sacramento. We so appreciate your service, Assemblywoman. Thank you so much for being with us today.
Thank you. And thank you for always fighting for taxpayers in Orange County and always making sure that transparency is your number one priority. And we all do appreciate that.
Great.
Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Bye-bye.
Bye. And I would like to personally thank our outgoing OC Tax Board of Directors Chairwoman, Kristen Camuglia, for her dedication, steady hand, and hard work the past 2 years. And welcome the Honorable Trevor O'Neill as our incoming Chairman of the Board for 2021 and 2022. And we would like to thank all of you for joining us today. Your support of OC Tax allows us to continue to protect and defend the taxpayers of Orange County. And if you are interested in becoming a member or joining us for our future programs, please go to octax.org and sign up. And we are hoping to see you all in person very soon.